The house smelled like lemon cleaner and old wood, the way it always had when was trying to make it feel presentable without changing anything that mattered. I noticed it the moment we stepped inside, the faint sting at the back of the nose that said someone wanted control, not comfort. My son paused at the threshold. He was 10, old enough to sense when a room had rules that hadn't been explained yet. He looked at me, not asking a question, just checking whether to breathe normally or carefully. "Shoes off," my sister said from the dining room, not looking up. Her voice had that practiced brightness she used when she wanted to sound reasonable. "We just had the floors done." We hadn't. But I nodded and squeezed my son's shoulder, the way you do when you want to signal this isn't worth it. He kicked his sneakers off and lined them up neatly, as if neatness could earn permission. The dining room was full of family. Aunts, a cousin I barely recognized, my sister's husband leaning back in his chair with his phone half out. The table was set like a photograph of tradition, linen, polished silver, the good plates that only came out when appearances mattered. My sister finally looked at us. Her eyes flicked to my son, then back to me, measuring. He hovered near my side, hands in his pockets. He'd worn his nicest sweater. I'd noticed that in the car and hadn't said anything because saying something would have made it heavy. "You can sit there?" she said, pointing not to a chair but to a space against the wall. Out of the way. I felt the familiar tightening behind my ribs. The old reflex. Don't make it awkward. Don't embarrass anyone. Don't remind them you exist unless invited. My son took a step toward the wall, then stopped. He looked at the table, at the empty chair beside my sister's husband, and then back at her. "Can I sit there?" he asked. His voice was steady. He wasn't challenging her. He was asking like someone who expected a fair answer. She laughed, short and sharp, like he'd misunderstood a joke. "Oh no," she said, waving a hand. "This is for family." The word landed wrong. It always had. He didn't move. He just stood there, absorbing it. The way children do when something doesn't match what they were taught. "You're a nobody here," she added, still smiling. "You don't belong at this table." The room didn't go silent. That would have been easier. Forks clinked. Someone cleared their throat. My sister's husband scrolled on his phone like he hadn't heard anything worth interrupting. I felt my son's body stiffen beside me. Not in anger. In confusion. The kind that sinks inward and stays. I could have said her name. I could have told her to stop. I could have raised my voice and made a scene that would be retold later with me as the unstable one. Instead, I inhaled slowly and said nothing. That was the moment she turned to me, eyebrows lifting, waiting for me to do what I always did, smooth it over, apologize for existing, translate her cruelty into something palatable. "Well," she said. "If that's a problem, you two can leave." She said it kindly, like a hostess offering an option. I looked around the room. At the walls I'd grown up staring at. At the clock that had been my father's, the one that ticked too loudly when the house was quiet. At the window where my mother used to stand and watch for cars, as if waiting to hold people together. "Of course," I said, and smiled. It surprised her. I saw it in the slight pause, the recalibration. "We wouldn't want to impose," I added. "Just remember, this is your house to kick us out of." She laughed. A real laugh this time, loud enough that a few heads turned. "Ah, please," she said. "Don't start. Everyone knows this is my house now." She reached for her wine glass, already done with me. I bent down and picked up my son's sneakers. He watched me, eyes wide, trying to read the situation from my posture. I handed them to him and nodded toward the door. "Go ahead," I said softly. "I'll be right behind you." He hesitated, then did as I asked. The front door closed gently after him. I reached into my bag. The folder was thin. Ordinary. The kind of thing you could overlook if you were used to assuming nothing in the room applied to you. I placed it on the table, directly in front of her wine glass. "What's this?" she asked, irritation creeping in. "You might want to read it," I said. She didn't touch it at first. Then she did, flipping it open with the same casual confidence she used for menace and bills she expected someone else to cover. Her smile faded. Not dramatically. Just drained. She turned a page. Then another. "This isn't funny," she said. "It's not meant to be," I replied. The room had finally gone quiet. The document wasn't a surprise to me. I'd known about it for years, tucked away in a lawyer's office, mentioned once in a conversation everyone else pretended not to remember. A contingency. a safeguard. My father's quiet way of correcting a narrative without a fight. The house hadn't been left to her. It had been placed in trust, with conditions, with oversight, with a clause that transferred control the moment it was used to exclude direct descendants. She looked up at me, eyes sharp now, searching for something to attack. "You wouldn't?" she said. I answered. He did. Her husband leaned forward, finally engaged. "Is this real?" I slid the folder toward him without comment. There was no shouting, no meltdown, just the slow, unmistakable shift of gravity as the room adjusted to a truth it hadn't planned for. "I'm still leaving," I said, standing. "Dinner's all yours." She stared at me, something fractured behind her eyes. Not remorse. Calculation. "You think this means you win?" she asked. I thought about my son, waiting on the porch, about the way his shoulders had curled inward at her words. "I think it means you don't get to decide who belongs," I said. Outside, the air was cool. My son sat on the steps, sneakers on, knees drawn up. "Are we in trouble?" he asked. "No," I said, sitting beside him. "We're okay." We didn't go back inside. Weeks later, the house was sold. Not dramatically. Quietly. Legally, my sister stopped calling. Family gatherings grew smaller, then stopped altogether. Sometimes I wonder if I should feel guilty. But when my son talks now, really talks, he doesn't lower his voice when he mentions that day. He doesn't ask what he did wrong. And when he walks into rooms, he doesn't wait to be told where he's allowed to sit. That feels like enough.